Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Apollo's Odyssey. I'm your host, Apolla Asteria, and I am really excited for this show tonight because I haven't done a live show in a while. I just got back from Hawaii. I did some really amazing filming with Blake and Brent Cousins from Third Phase of Moon. So it's pretty awesome. If you haven't checked out the pyramid video that was posted, please do. It was really well shot, and I'm really excited about it. It was a cool episode. So tonight's show, I'm bringing on Mary Edwards, who is she has a very interesting background. She's done a lot in regards to designing artistically for things in the aerospace industry, which I'll let her get into herself. And I'll just let her get into the background. But I've had her on a few times before, so you might have seen her on my show before. But I think out of everyone in the kind of UFO community, she really has the most interesting and most well-connected background. So I'll let her explain that. But before we get started here, I want to remind you all to please be sure to check out my art, which is over at shamanspears.com. I actually made some new items, which were actually made before Contact in the Desert that I never posted. So I just reposted those. I also have some new scrolls, which I made. So everyone that gets a spear off me, which by the way, if you don't know what they are, they're uniquely handcrafted energy channeling devices, which are really fun to go hiking with or any sort of energy healing modalities you may use. They're great for that. And really, I'm trying to fund my trip where I'm speaking in Glastonbury in a couple weeks from now, and all the support is very much needed. And you'll be able to see me and my adventures out there if you help support me with that. So I would really appreciate that. And so anyone that purchases a spear, they get a scroll that is kind of like an initiation thing. It talks about what it means to have one. So it's pretty fun. And I do next day shipping on all orders. So please make sure you go check that out. And again, that's on shamanspears.com. And so also the Glastonbury event, let me go ahead and share that before I bring Mary on here. If any of you happen to be in England or want to make a last minute trip to England, you haven't got tickets yet, the site is ascensionglastonbury.com. And I'll be giving a very unique version of my Solutions for Humanity presentation at this particular conference because it is near the tour in Glastonbury, which I'm really excited about because I am a huge fan of Arthurian legend and the Mists of Avalon. And I always wanted to go there, and I've always wanted to try to go through the mist and get to Avalon. So I'm hoping I can do that. So here's me on the lineup here. And again, I'll be doing a very unique, more matriarchal society oriented version of my Solutions for Humanity presentation. So you'll definitely want to check that out. If you're in England, come by and check it out. All right. So also, there's a lot to cover today with Mary. We wanted to get into the topic of inspiring future leaders in the spacefaring kind of industry. And also, of course, the UAP hearing was today, the congressional hearing. So I want to know your thoughts on that. Let us know in the comments. But without further ado, I'm going to bring Mary on. Hello, Mary. How are you doing today?
I'm great, thank you. How are you? Can
I'm
you?
great. You're a little blurry over there.
Oh, I don't understand what that is. What is that?
So much on, oh, there you go.
I had my whole thing up there. Sorry for
Crystal clear now.
today early. I'm sorry. Nice to see you. Really nice to see you as always. Let me scoot back a little bit here.
It's
Um,
good to see you too. Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to go a little bit over your background. I know you've been on the show a couple times before, but there were some different topics I wanted to go over today, and that is if you've heard anything of the UAP hearing, inspiring future leaders, our future Disclosure Fest event that we'll both be participating in, and just your background and your thoughts on the future of aeronautics and becoming a spacefaring civilization. So,
great.
um,
Yeah, good. Well, thank you. It's nice to be here again. I'll just go over a little bit of my background, and then I'd love to hear what I haven't heard anything about the UAP talk today, so we can go over that, and then what we're working on together. So I'm Mary Edwards. I live in San Francisco. Sunny, you can see here. I'm sure is down in LA with you. I'm an artist and an interior designer. I had a couple of years of architecture school, and I'm a teacher and an author. I've taught children art. I've taught college students. I've taught suicidals on the side, art therapy, cancer patients on the side, really of doing my interior work. But I've always loved space. I grew up with an architect, with a rocket scientist father and grandfather and two uncles. And so my childhood was filled with gazing up at the stars and really watching for things. And he happened to have an aeronautical aerospace company that his grandfather started a company in 1893, but not until NASA didn't start till the early 50s. They were doing work on products in World War I and a lot of things in World War II. So he was head of research and development, and he had a pretty massive company that I've just been finding out about. It was pretty top secret, so I've just been learning really about his company for the most part in the last year, other than I knew he designed and manufactured heavy rocketry out of 8 locations inside around Chicago near military bases. And then I found out that he also had a big hangar and 130,000 square foot space right next to Wright-Patterson in Ohio in the 50s. So back in the 50s and 60s and 70s, they were growing and they had massive, I'll just read this a little bit. Dad ran Cook Electric Laboratories, which was a part of Cook Electric Company, one of 7 divisions of Cook Electric Company, devoted entirely to research and development of electronics, radar, nuclear physics, servo mechanisms, upper air research, weather reconnaissance, sonar, celestial and inertial navigation systems, aerodynamics, and allied fields. Cook had massive 30 to 140,000 square foot buildings near military bases in Chicago, Skokie, Illinois, Martin Grove, Illinois, and Vandalia, Ohio. Over 400 engineers, scientists, and technicians were part of the division's staff. So every night at the dining room table, my father talked about the Russians, because that was back in the 50s and 60s, but they were designing and manufacturing heavy rocketry, reentry systems, parachutes, Apollo optics. So he spent 6 months out of pretty much every year of my childhood, up until they sold the company in the late 90s, working on rockets, special top secret stuff, and then regular stuff they were selling. They were selling a lot of products, from propellers to coffins. My mother's father happened to be an architect. He had a big architectural firm with his father. So they were selling wood and doing different things with the government, mostly in World War II. But I found out a lot of this just recently, and I'm still putting all the pieces of the puzzle together. So I worked in multifaceted design firms for 20 or 30 years. I worked on everything from the Star Trek logo a long time ago and to Disney products. We did the Downtown Boulder Mall. We worked on Faneuil Hall. We did really large products and design facilities all over the planet. It was so creative and fun. So getting a BFA and then going to interior design school, and then a couple of years of architecture school. And then I went to sustainability school here in San Francisco at the Presidio Graduate School of Sustainability. So I got to weave all my loves, all my passions of fine art design, and really and my photography into the International Space Station when I got hired at your age, at age 30, to work on the first habitability and human factors department here at Moffett Field near me, and near me here, 45 minutes.
What exactly is Moffett Field? I haven't heard of that before.
Moffett Field is one of the main NASA locations. And then we also worked down, I was a contractor. I was not full-time, but I was full-time, but I was a contractor for several years. Then we worked at the science and research part of Johnson Space Center. Because I said, as my father would say to me, why'd they hire you? And I said, well, Dad, the monkeys all died when they went up. They really want to create habitable, safe as they can for a space station, and more functional and more practical interiors for NASA. So we were working out of Moffett Field for a couple of years. Then they let us, we built a full-size mock-up and tested pupillary dilation and different heartbeat and different things down there a long time ago to really try to create a wellness interior for NASA back then that hadn't been done. It was first year European Space Agency. It was a cross-cultural crew. So we were working and planning and designing for women, men, different countries. So it was really fun and interesting to be able to create a cross-cultural environment that would be more conducive to productivity, which was, of course, NASA's drive to allow the astronauts back then that were, floating around from day till night every hour and a half from a string of basically Velcro back then. So we were designing sleep restraints and earth ground orientation, and really trying to make it a more practical Earth-like environment for them to work more productively and creatively in. NASA bought about 500 of my photographs. We had rotating different art galleries on the walls. We did outlying art experiments to see where Antarctica and Alaskan outlying people were working in isolation and confinement, which is what the whole problem was, of course, of living in space, is isolation and confinement and the fear of going day till night and bouncing around and not knowing. Obviously, they've always done that, and they still do. But there's
obviously how that would mess up your circadian rhythm and your bodily cycles.
They did that, and so they were asking us a lot of questions about that, and if women went up with different situations with that and sexuality. They got into a lot of Psychology Today back then was diving in, talking to Ivana and myself and a bunch of the crew of the other team. So we developed a team back then, and it was really fascinating. When I was 9 years old, I wrote NASA to say that I wanted to be the first woman astronaut. I think I pulled that out here. And I have the proof of it. I actually have the proof of the letter that, but anyway, because I always wanted to be an artist, I always wanted to be an astronaut, and I always wanted to work at NASA. So I eventually got there, and it was incredible. And working on all of their space, I worked on many hospitals and doing gardens, rooftop. We did some of the first rooftop gardens here 30 years ago, and just creating a sense of place for people that they could grow and function and thrive in, at their optimism, best self. And I learned that a lot from my dad, talking about what the monkeys. We met astronauts when we were working down there, and then I've been incorporating my interiors and my care of people who have been off planet too. I was taken off planet. I was recruited. I was taken by the Pleiadians at age 3. I've had many regressions to learn a lot about what I've done, and I don't have a lot of proof, but I know you don't forget that. I never forgot that, and the many other times I've been up until recently. But I know now that my galactic family has been training me and recruiting me and giving me uploads all the time and refining my DNA since really birth. I mean, I remember really being protected by, I didn't not quite know what it was back then. But then at age 5, when I went up on a craft with my father, I had a lot of, about 1,000 eggs extracted as a little girl. It freaked me out a bit. But my dad was there, which gave me a lot of calm, and several grays, and a Palladian and a Turian, and mostly just the little grays I remember, and it was bright lights and all that. But they've been taking me Then I went back at age 6, then I went back at age 10, and I've been going off planet really ever since. And it's been really wild and wonderful. I'm still trying to unpack it, how I know these things and how I can remember any of it. But I'm here to help heal the planet in my own, as we all play our part. And like you, we're concerned about how kids to adults to all of us de-stress and can live in our own sanctuaries that I've worked on thousands of interiors in my life, from, as I said, hospitals to huge projects, just working with AIDS patients here and homelessness and vets. I've always been involved in the community to help whoever I can to be at peace. And because I was in my lab, I was in some programs since I was a little girl. And there were some sexual things that were really weird that, thank God, I blocked out a lot of them, or they blocked it out. I was in my lab in a couple of robotics programs at electric shock treatment about probably 30 or 40 times. So I have about half of my memory that I can still remember, which is probably good too. But I have great sympathy and compassion for others who, like me, and all of us who are still trying to unpack what this wild and wonderful world is with our ET friends, and the sentient ones, of course. Mm-hmm. But anyways, and I've been told, I've talked to several of my hybrid children. I know I have hundreds. So they've been watching my father. His father had taken him up. His father had taken him up. He had hybrid children. So I've been talking to him a lot since he passed several years ago. And he's been telling me everything, because he said, I was sworn to secrecy my whole life. I was never allowed to speak to you. On his deathbed, I was asking him, and I was on my mom's deathbed at 100. A couple of years ago, I was saying, Mom, you never spoke to me about any of this. My whole childhood was creeped out, was freaked out by the lack of trust. But I've always known that I was here to do more. And I just would never give in to the fear that I could have had. And I know a lot of other people have had. I mean, I still have fear about things, of course, but I know what the purpose is now. And I've been working on habitats and teaching children for 10 years and going off planet for a long time. So I'm just here to help in any way that I can. And I did a book, a couple of years ago, as you know, Apolla with Barbara Lamb. I asked her to do ET Friends in Space book with me, to use some of her amazing regression. And I have many regressions with her as well. Her regressions that she had worked with many of her clients over the years, to help write a book to explain to kids. I think I have it here. Mm-hmm. To just make sure that other kids like me didn't have to spend their whole life, here it is, waste their whole life not understanding that those thoughts are real. You may figure them out someday. Just keep asking, keep trying to inform yourself, because what I've learned is they were only here to really help and advance me and everyone really to another level. So this was on a really big, huge contribution to me anyway, to have done that. And then we're going to work on a book together on children.
Yeah, of course. And we'll definitely get into that. I think, your background is so incredible with bringing the interior design with the outer space, and bringing those concepts together. And, today's topic, we're getting into inspiring future leaders to, basically inspiring kids to be interested in aeronautics and becoming a spacefaring civilization, because they're the ones that are going to be taking over from us after we move on. And what a better person to explain this than you, and your background and everything you've been doing. I mean, it's really amazing, and so great to be working on this project with you right now. It's just a really important time in history right now. We're at like a very interesting crossroads with the UIP hearing, congressional hearing that happened today. I didn't get a chance to really listen to the whole thing, but it's just really interesting what the information they're bringing forward. It's like, they're just basically kind of confirming things. They can't really seem to release that much, but, it's like we're definitely moving to a new paradigm in consciousness here on the planet. And, it's an interesting time to be here.
It's
Definitely.
the best time, and that's why we are all here now. Anyone that's listening, we're all here to play our part to help this. I did what my interiors, I call them space lifts, and we're all here to space lift whatever we can. And whether it's big or small, and for the kids and for all of us, we have to, at this time, we are entering a new era. It is a new renaissance. The next 1,000 years is going to be, we're going to have some crash and burn. We're going to have probably a very difficult next 6 months, as we know, and next few years. But we are going to get there. We are going to, work together to elevate our dimensions and our frequencies. So, and we start with ourselves as parents. I'm a parent. I taught my kids from the beginning to look up to the stars. And I tell a lot of young kids that I work with now to get off their phones, because a lot of that is just, as we know now, the proof is in the pudding. The huge impact that it's had on children negatively by not many spending. I used to play kick the can. We'd play, I still do a lot of sports outdoors. Kids do sports, but the addiction to the iPhones and a lot of bad news has not worked out very well, along with, several years of COVID, shootings, schools aren't safe, a lot of homes aren't as safe, a lot of kids aren't safe. There are many new forms of PSTD that kids have now. So we really need to, since they lost several years, as we know, we really want to help ground them, as we need to do. You and I need to, we all need to do it every day a lot, so we don't sway off our balance and stay grounded while we elevate up and keep continuing to learn and to elevate ourselves, so we can get keep rising and keep doing better good. So what I did with my kids, who Lizzie's now 33 and she's my son's 34, when they were little, and for all the students that I taught for the last really like 50 years, and I'm teaching painting to mental health professionals now out in parks down by the water here a couple of times a month. It's just get outside and breathe, and we're trying to give the kids some skills of how to be a leader. And we know that anyone can be a leader. Leadership is kids, and they are our future voices, and they are our future activists. And every child has the potential to be a leader. Even if they weren't born leaders, they can be taught by their teachers, by their mentors, by us, by the village that's out here helping kids right now move through these very turbulent times for them. I read an article a couple of days ago. They said that even American children we're number 25 in the world on math. We're like 19% in science. We are like 15%. I don't have it in front of me. I should have kept it, but I don't have the exact stats here, so I apologize. But we are way down, and it's been going faster and faster down, as of course the Chinese and Indians and many other cultures have been expanding and teaching their kids diligently. And we've really lost some time. So we need to rebuild their self-reliance. We need to teach them how to meditate and how to, 11 missions that we're going to put in our little book here. Mm-hmm. We're going to ensure that they get some basics like coding, planting an edible garden, spending time in nature, simple things that they can learn with some tools. So it's really a toolkit to help them.
Oh yeah, I want to let the audience know. So basically what we're getting into here is me and Mary are working on a book on inspiring future leaders. This is a little preview here. It's not finished yet, but it's going to be really incredible. And, we just both feel that it's important. Like, we both have a connection with, basically solutions for humanity, like how we're moving forward and becoming a spacefaring civilization. And, it's really important to inspire the younger kids to get into this. And it's like you were saying, Mary, with the, American kids being so far behind with everything. It's like something that I think about a lot is like the gap of learning that children have to overcome now, like what they have to learn now in a short space of time compared to what people like, when they were kids like 40, 100 years ago or whatever, what they had to learn. It's a lot. It's a big responsibility. I mean, there's, so much more that they have to learn every day with the new technologies coming out, and just basically like handling the changes that are happening in our society. And it's like if AI makes things obsolete, like, that could be a major issue in the future, and these are all things that, these children are going to have to deal with. And, inspiring them to become future leaders and, take part in their communities now is important because, who knows what's going to happen in the future. I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Oh, I agree totally. We need to create a little more hope. The heroes of today are far and few between. I was looking up today, who are the heroes in the past, like 10 years ago, just as for a quick survey. Think of 2014. If you guys, I mean, I don't know how old you were then, but not very old. But back then, they were saying a survey of who do you think of as their hero, and they said over 26% said their mom or their dad was the biggest hero. Well, that we are the ones who teach them and nurture them. They should say that, but. And then when young people with older people, like 6 to 15-year-olds, went up 43%. But then, they said they did, this was a test of 5,600 people. A member of the military was the next most common answer. I mean,
Really?
that's how far we've come.
Wow.
I was going to do, and I did a comparison from then till today. And they said that a member of the military was the next most common answer of who their hero was, with 21% of the vote, followed by a religious figure, 19%. Whether it be Jesus or, whoever. And then a medical or emergency worker were the next 18%. A US president, 17% were an activist or a humanitarian. 12% were a celebrity.
Wow.
So, and then as of today, I was looking at it, where did I put this? It's, they go back, it's Jesus, and then I won't even go into the political part of it, but it was shocking. And today it's a couple of sports people. It's Oprah, who has given so much to humanitarian, to humanitarian court things. A couple of different other actors who have also given a lot to things. There was a mention of like Einstein from the past, Thomas Edison, but some of the younger women, some of the younger people who are really promoting it. And they said teacher, a mentor, their parents, and then it was a bunch of celebrities too, which would just make me almost want to burst out crying. But also with others, some powerful people. So they're looking for answers. They're looking for truth. For the lack of no diversity. They want unity. They want to know morals and ethics that we've gone so far off base with. That's partly when I'm on planet, people tell me they see me teaching Rumi to, how do we, what morals do you have on earth? How do you live? They come and look at my home and they go, why do you have these things here? And it's so clean and it's so happy and colorful. They want to know, and kids want to know how to find more peace and hope really within their lives. So with our book, we can, we're going to show them how to meditate a little bit, find balance in their room. We're going to suggest different things, tools where they can go outside, different somatic tests and science, and give them in 24 pages, sort of an overview of ways that they can get involved, like a community garden. We've been talking about it a lot. How were we inspired? When I used to talk to my daughter after she was born, who's your age, I said, do you want to work at NASA? And she said, we've talked about space and we've gone camping so much. We've helped the homeless. We spend all the time outdoors, and they're both athletes now. She got hired at NASA, and I used to go down, and she was working on this book when she worked at Moffett Field for 3 years with Dr. Von Clearwater, my old boss there. And she was helping put together this book. And she gave it to me because it was one of the chores. She was Von Clearwater's right-hand man. She got out of Tufts with media and communications, entrepreneurial leadership. She loved space, and she went through.
That's incredible.
But anyway, and so she gave this book to me that she was working on, and I'm just gonna read it. I just thought of this a minute ago. Mom, happy Mother's Day. This is 5/11/2014. So right about the same time when Reagan and a whole nother world back then. Happy Mother's Day. Thank you for instilling in me the desire to explore. My 24 years of life have been truly out of this world. Love always, Lizzie, daughter. And I'm mother. But
Oh,
so,
that's beautiful.
and my son does forestry at the Presidio Trust, managing and growing and planting for the future of our Presidio Trust here. She's now a global community manager at Salesforce in the philanthropy and education department. And I'm not being name droppy. It's just like, I love that my one daughter is connecting 50,000 people a day by inspiring them to do the best they can be in what their philanthropy connection or education connection is with Salesforce. And then Alex is teaching people every day how to, on Fridays, he has they come to Alex and they plant trees, and they've allowed him to grow orchards. So he teaches them, and he goes on the weekends and does reforestation, and he got a degree in finance and an MBA in business. But all he wants to do is help teach kids about planting and growing his gardens, which we had growing up. So I think if we just expose our children to camping, they can start like we've talked about on our list for the book, fun things that they can start a space leaders club, either by asking a teacher or finding somebody for free that'll come and gather the parents, and they go out one night a week or one night a month, because our kids are busy now. But to get them inspired to get off their phones, go outside, plant a garden, plant herbs like you and I both did growing up. Give them some hope and have some fun. They want fun. When I used to teach kids down at NASA, I would draw just rockets when she was there 10 years ago. And all these public schools and private schools from the Bay Area would come in, and I'd say, "What do you want, Lizzie?" And she said, "More rockets, Mom. More, show a picture in 0G upside down that they can draw it." Kids just want to be inspired by colorful images, happy things, and they want to learn. And if we can make learning fun for them and interesting, they're going to jump on board.
You know what I thought was really interesting when working on this project with you is, something I was looking at when I was thinking of things that would inspire kids, that'd be kind of simple for them to do, but like something that would really kind of, change the way they think. It's really interesting thinking about that and, looking at, what like they could be doing now that is kind of more for today's world, as opposed to like what I might have learned, like things that would have helped me growing up. But now, like, kids have to learn, there's like a different kind of world that they're growing into. And, it's interesting to think of, what kind of things could help inspire them now. And I think that's something that a lot of people aren't realizing is like, these kids have to learn like new skills, new abilities. I know one thing we were kind of talking about was coding in there. Like, it sounds crazy teaching kids coding, but, I grew up on MySpace. I think it came out when I was like 9, and I didn't even realize I was coding, but I would get, go to these different sites and like copy all these, codes to when I found like a profile background that I liked and put it in. I didn't realize that was coding. And it's really, I mean, it's interesting to think about what kind of things we could be, teaching kids now or doing fun projects with them to help open their minds to today's world and the world we're moving into.
Well, the next book we do after this one, we're going to do it longer and have more things. We need to teach them creativity. A lot of parents have been I was a single parent for 30 years. I was stressed out working full time, but it was like always, I had to take my kids outside. We helped the homeless. We did fun things. We did projects. We baked things, we sold things, we had lemonade. I mean, it's not just doing a lemonade stand, but it's teaching creativity. Kids got, once they get off these things a little bit, and we can make dioramas. I've taught 6 to 12-year-olds. We built things, we made things. When I taught at the academy of our college here for 6 years at night, 4-hour classes, I would drive, make the school get me a van or like a school bus, and we go down to NASA. And they got to work at Moffett Field. We get them involved. We go to the schools. I've taught a lot of kids. I've read the E.T. Friends book and I'm a Space Explorer book to a lot of pre-kindergarten, kindergarten. And then when I taught at the academy of our college, I taught business principles and practices and how to get a job and what do you want to be when you grow up, basically. Because I was lucky enough to grow up with a mother that was an artist and a grandmother that was an artist and a dad that was a rocket scientist. And I didn't go to Princeton and Northwestern to get my engineering degree, but I, as an artist with really severe dyslexia, some ADD, processing issues, people, your dad said a couple of times, well, what were your skills, Mary? I said, well, I've traveled the world, I've taught, I've worked on thousands of hundreds of projects, well, a couple thousand probably by then. But I said, there's always room for it. And I asked the kids, what do you want to be when you grow up? My college students, I taught 4 years of a couple classes at night on those. What are your skills? What'd you do as a child? What can you do of your passion? We know that kids can be successful, or anybody can be successful when, number one, hard work and a passion and a mission. I have been on a passion and a mission my whole life. I don't socialize very much. I've traveled the world. I've done incredible work, but my work has always been my passion and my mission and my fun. Like working with you on this is just like a total delight. So we have to pick carefully, and we've got it. And when I used to teach some of the public schools in Boulder for kindergarten, first grade, second grade, I went to trailer houses, and sometimes the parents would get mad that I was there, and I had a t-shirt on, and I said, can we just draw some rocket ships or some plants or something? I mean, it's not easy when kids don't grow up with creativity. Even the off-planet interiors I've been working on with the ET, they said, we know tech, but we don't know how to make a space in the solar system that blends what you do, what you earthlings do, because we live with the flora and the fauna and color and light. We don't grow, we don't live in cold, metallic, techie environments like most of them. So they're curious. They're all asking, how do they make a space like this? And they go, what is that thing? And I said, that's collage. That's my photography, my painting. And they go, oh, and that's why I've been doing these huge murals. They want more. They want to learn too. We all want to learn. And we need more creativity that's not necessarily in the AI direction or the, we can work from our heart and we can play from our heart. I think I play all day, every day, even though I've worked really hard, like long weeks, 7 days a week, like we all do. And also teaching independence, getting involved in the community.
Definitely important. I did a lot with charity growing up, and I just, I tell that to everyone how important that was for me in my journey. Definitely, it shows you like a sense of responsibility, and I think that's definitely important.
Right. And I think the self-respect and self-reliance, I mean, my parents let me travel. I did go do movies when I was like 15 for a month. I'd take my little Super 8 movie camera and I'd say, you don't care that I can go to, are you really okay that I'm going to Cape Cod by myself? And they said, go. And then we had really strict hours it was so crazy because I was a strict, but also a very creative mom. And who also had, I said, you got to go to school, you got to get your master's, because by the time you get older, everybody, you have to get some degree or you have to have a passion with a skill set. So, because nobody, said, well, you can go to Princeton and be an engineer. It was like, that's why I just said, well, I'm going to make it there myself anyway. So
I have a question for you, you being a mother, like what advice would you give to other parents on, recognizing the gifts in your children and helping them bring that out as opposed to like pushing things on them? I think that's something a lot of people struggle with. And I think that's something that's very important.
Well, the most important thing, and I was always working, but we always sat down for dinner every night. And I'd say, Lizzie, I sat at the head of the table, and my kids were 6 and 7 when I got divorced. And it was, sort of like, oh my God, how do I even do this? But I listened. I listened to them and I said, I'm always going to tell you the truth. And I want you to tell me the truth. So I listened to them. We did a lot of drawing together. We did a lot of reading together. I mean, reading is the most compassionate, caring thing you can do with anybody, particularly your child. Today, and I could have sat my kids, they're both techie because everybody is at this age, at your age, but doing things together. We'd go for walks, we'd pick up leaves, we made things. I never wanted them to buy me a birthday or Christmas present. We make things. I said, I want a photograph, I want a picture of us, I want a collage. So I got them. I asked them and I said, I care about you. And Lizzie and Alex, you are a boy and a girl. I grew up with 3 girls who supposedly didn't have a brain in the 50s. We're all creative. We're all smart. We've all done well. My sister's in computers. My other sister's graphic designer in New York. So we all found our passions by watching the people. The parents we are the role models. And if we aren't the role models, then we can go in and you find a mentor or a teacher. I mean, Mrs. Dolman, my art teacher at boarding school when I was like 15 said, Mary, your art and your color is great. And I said, you really? And, nobody sort of really said that to me before. And so she said, you should have your own show. And I said, no, I'm not good enough. And so like a year later, I had a show and I even sold some things. But if we all get certain things from our parents, and we all don't get certain things from our parents. And that's why in these books and going into schools, like we're going to do and do some dioramas with people. It's listening is caring. There's nothing more important than listening to your children and taking the time. We used to do one project a week for 1 hour. And then Lizzie and Alex had to have chores. They had to take out the garbage. I mean, you have to make your bed. You have to teach certain things. And I know people that have, a lot of my friends have young kids. It's like, you don't make them make their bed, make them make their bed, and then they whatever their allowance is, if it's $10, I made my kids from early on and they still do it with, they don't make a lot of money. Well, Lizzie does, both of them make different amounts of money, but they each still give 1% to Mother Nature. Alex gives to the water, the bay here. He loves the butterflies. And then he gives to, I can't remember what the other thing, because he changes sometimes. And Lizzie gives back. So if you set up some boundaries and some goals with your kids and you teach them self-respect, learn self-respect by earning things. And whether it's your chores in your house, washing your dishes, doing projects together, getting involved in the community, the parents really need to be involved. I mean, I was always involved. I went to every game. We took them, I did homelessness. We did all different things with them. So I think it's just, you have to figure out what the children like. I always used to have my college students say, what were 3 jobs? What are your 3 favorite jobs that you've had so far or that you did growing up? And the boys mowed lawns or they worked at the gas station, And I said, well, let's write 3 things that you want to do in the next 5 years. And then I took them to job sites. I took them to NASA. I took them to design firms. I dragged them all over the city, and we went to different, because this was an interior design. I was in the interior design department. And I said, you could work at a paint store. You could work here. I mean, I have always spent time mentoring. I mentor about 4 kids right now. And I have a whole bunch of really advanced little kids. And I have older kids too that I love hanging out with. Because that to me is what my social time is really just helping inspire other people, which is time and whatever they want to do. I have a little bag of arts and crafts stuff that I take, and we draw and they talk and we gather things in the pine cones. We make little frames. I mean, depending upon their age, but it's all about time. And everybody, we have time. All we have is time and space. So
definitely. So we're going on for about coming up towards the hour here. So I wanted to ask you before we start wrapping this up. So what do you think, what are your thoughts on the future of aeronautics and space travel? After going through, how we can inspire future leaders, what do you think may be happening in the next decades? Like, do you think there'll be like new kind of jobs opening up that we couldn't even, imagine right now? Like that's
tons. Watch the Netflix about a woman who is working on, I can't remember. It's a woman. It's on Netflix now. If you have Netflix, about a woman who at 19 wanted to work at NASA. She worked her way up, and now she's one of the program women. She said, I was the first Latina. She said, nobody expected me and my family to get this job, but I worked and worked at it. But I looked up the cost, how big space tourism is going to be. Anyway, I think it's going to be huge. I got hired. I worked at NASA on Mars. They wanted me to work on Mars 28 years ago. And I had 2 kids. And I couldn't keep flying down to Johnson Space Center. So I worked at another firm here that was local, and I still traveled all over the place. But there are going to be so many jobs: graphic design, engineering, Cal Poly. My son got a free ride at Cal Poly, which is in Southern California. My next door neighbor is 30 years old. She got a free ride at Cal Poly, and now is designing space stuff and different products at Apple right now. I was talking to her last night. But anyway, so the global space tourism market was estimated at USD, United States, in 2022 of 900 million. And I'm sure this is probably doesn't include some of the other government and space stuff. We don't know. And
Or
it's
space habitats. That's a whole other.
right, totally habitats, and is projected to surpass USD 4 billion by 2030, poised to grow at a register 20% from 2023, so now till 2032. Look at that projection for space. So this is everything with space tourism. I have 3 friends who work at SpaceX. I have young friends who said, how do I work at NASA? I said, give them a call, volunteer. I mean, I think it's going to be huge.
Sorry, there's a fly.
I think it's going to explode because that's our next frontier. And now that we're going into a new era of positivity and creativity and imagination, we've been so stuck in tech and negativity and dumbing down. We're going to explode out of this thing, and there's going to be, but you have to kids just have to think about, what are the 3 things I love to do every day? Do you like to write? Lizzie worked at PBS all through college. I made my kids work all through college and all through high school. They've got to learn how to take responsibility, not only volunteering, but working at anything, so they can learn about what it's like to be a leader. Being a leader is being strong and good at what you do. It's listening to other people. It's being part of a team. And there's never a time more that's going to be part of a team, because it's going to be a global team I'm working with ET and humans they say for 40 years. It's crazy. And I say, why? And they said, because you can bend, you work all the time. We trust you. We know you. We know your family for 94 generations. We know you care. And we know that you will tell the truth and work hard to solve the problem, whatever it is, for whatever it is. And that's what you and I do, and probably the people listening here. So we just have to toss out a lot of different options, and then try to spend a little bit of time each month with kids as a Boys and Girls Club, or at a school nearby, which I've done on and off for a long time. So I think there's a lot of support and love and kindness and inspiration we can give, even if it's a couple hours a month. I think we all have time to do that.
Definitely. And one other point I wanted to bring up with that is that, I think a lot of people think that going into aerospace as a job means just being a rocket, like you can only be like a rocket scientist. But there's so many other job positions that are going to be opening up with this. And like what you were kind of getting into with the creative aspect of it, that hasn't really been brought in as much yet. Obviously you did that, but the merging the right brain with the left brain technical stuff is, that's something I haven't really thought about until I just heard you talking just now.
You have to manifest that. At 9, I wrote NASA and I said, I want to be the first woman astronaut, but I got the closest thing that I could with an art degree, a design degree, because I was motivated to work at firms and to get the most exposure that I could get. And I'm just beginning to scratch the surface. We are just beginning to scratch the surface of creativity and imagination. It's been tech, and we've been controlled by the government and dumbing down for 70 years, my whole life. It's gross. I had to fight 10 times harder. At NASA, are you kidding? It was Yvonne and me and like 25 men, and I got hit on. You can't believe the things I have been through working in India 40 years ago with my rug business. I have been through everything. It is just, and I am strong and I am tough, but my heart is gold, and I'm hypersensitive, and I am focused. So if we can help kids figure out one or two things that they love, and just follow the passion and go, what's my goal in 1 year or 4 years or 5 years? What do you want to do at college? While I was in college, I drilled them all the time, made them stand up in front of the audience and say in the class, we went around to different firms and said, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because you're grown up now. It's time to really focus on who you want to be. So I think just focus, like, look at what you're doing. Look at you. Look what you're doing. Look at, you've worked really hard to get where you are. We just have to pass that on. It's time for all of us to pass the baton on to anybody that's younger or older to us to get engaged.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Oh, and you're so incredible. Mary. So it's been really great working with you and having you on the show tonight. Before we start wrapping this up here, I wanted to pull up the Disclosure Fest event. I think maybe we should discuss that for a minute. Um, so we will be both speaking at Disclosure Fest, Stairway to the Stars at the Luxor in Las Vegas, November 10th, 11th, and 12th. So this is going to be a really incredible event. I mean, they're literally renting out the pyramid, the Luxor in Vegas for this event. A lot of the biggest names in Disclosure are going to be there. I'm going to be partially hosting it, and me and Mary will have booths next to each other. We plan to kind of have a children's corner there, also possibly a children's workshop. I think that's pretty much a given that we're going to be doing that. And so and hopefully, or well, we plan to have the book done by then, or we will have the book done by then. So
But
again,
come join us. We would love to see you all. Come. It's going to be incredible. It's the origins. I mean, look at the people that they have. And there you are. There you are.
And this is at disclosurefest.org, Stairway to the Stars. So, and this is just like an early lineup. They've been getting a lot of people involved in this, and it's just growing. And I mean, this event's going to be really incredible. So, is definitely highly recommend coming. And one thing like we discussed over the phone recently with the organizer of this event is that we want to make sure there's a lot of children coming to this event. I think a lot of people aren't thinking like, oh, I can bring my kids to this conference. Like there's going to be actually activities for kids there. It's going to be a very like children friendly conference, so you can come with your whole family and have a really incredible time.
Right. But yeah, please do come. I'm so glad you talked about that. And Adrian is one of the most incredible doers for kids to seniors. He has his hand in everything. I've never met anybody that really gives everything to everybody. I mean, I don't know how he does it all. And he's an old friend of yours. So I'm thrilled to get to go and get to do some little extra things there.
Yeah, Disclosure Fest, it's an amazing organization. I mean, they have all these different initiatives. It's the Starseed Initiative is for children in impoverished areas. So it's possible me and Mary will be getting there in Vegas before the event to help out, maybe share our presentation, do a little workshop with the Starseed Initiative program with children in the area before the event. So that'll be interesting, and I hope that works out. But just Disclosure Fest in general, even if you can't make it out to the event, I highly recommend donating. I mean, they also have the Feeding the Homeless initiatives, and then also Every Elder initiative, which is going to old people's homes and helping basically give them hope and brighten their day. So it's a really great organization.
Well, you're an inspiration. Thank you so much for having me on here. And I'm so looking forward to doing more. And if any of you want to get involved with our children idea, if you have children that want to draw pictures or get involved in any way, just get in touch with us. We would love, or if anybody's involved in a school in either LA or San Francisco, we could come talk to the kids in the classroom or do a book signing anywhere. We'd love to do that because we want to get you involved and help us keep elevating these kids to reach for the stars.
Amazing. And also, please let us know in the comments here below also. And I'm going to go ahead and share your site, Mary. If people want to contact you or reach out to you, or, I mean, where can they find your books? Is it just all here on the site?
Yeah, well, they can just really email me is probably the easiest thing. Yeah, it's on my site, maryedwardsdesign.com. And my email is meedwards11@gmail.com, meedwards11@gmail.com.
And this is where you can find the ET and Friends in Space book right here in the book section. So definitely go check that out.
And we'll be there soon in the next couple of months.
Yes, I'm so excited. Super fun. All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up here. Thank you so much for coming on, Mary. I don't know if you have any closing words before we go.
No, I love you, Apolla. I'm blown away by all you add and all you give and all you share and all your creativity and imagination. You inspire me. And I'm sure you inspire everybody else. Just keep giving and sharing. We're all in this together, and I know everybody's playing their part. So just enjoy, take care of yourselves and each other.
Thanks so much, Mary. All right, thanks everyone for joining tonight, and I hope to see you all again soon. So join me next time on Apolla's Odyssey, and until next time, over and out.